First, I'd like to thank those of you who were able to join us today. My name is Tanya Verkaitis, and I'm the Executive Director of Physicians for Social Responsibility, Pennsylvania. Today, we're talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, sharing and celebrating investments across the state and in local communities, and discussing how these investments can impact our health. The IRA is designed to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, impose penalties on those who emit excess methane, and to fund cleanup of polluted sites. Using a combination of tax credits and direct funding, the IRA also incentivizes the public to expand their use of alternative and more efficient energy. In addition to funding the Affordable Care Act and prescription drug reform, the climate initiatives will have major health benefits if implemented effectively. Our guest today will share with us how. I'll now turn it over to our moderator, Barb Gottlieb, Director of Environment and Health Programs at the PSR National Office.
Well, thank you, Tanya. It's good to be here, and thanks to everybody who's joining us today. As Tanya was saying, we'll be sharing a wealth of information about federal policies that invest in America to create healthier communities and healthier homes. Our examples of these benefits will come largely from Pennsylvania, but this is information that's valuable to everyone all across the country. We have a strong lineup of speakers today. Our guest of honor is Paige Cognetti, the mayor of Scranton. She will share with us what federal investment will mean for the health and well-being of the people of Scranton. She'll then be followed by Marie DeMarco, health educator and medical advisory coordinator at PSR Pennsylvania. Marie will give us a deeper dive into the health benefits of Scranton's investments, especially their new electric school buses. And then we'll hear from Ashley Deemer, Deputy Director of Penn Environment, for a fuller overview of the Inflation Reduction Act and other federal policies and how they can benefit cities and towns and individuals across the country. Our format today is going to be short presentations by each speaker, followed by questions. If you have questions you'd like to ask, please type them into the question box. Don't use the chat because I won't be monitoring the chat and I'd probably miss your questions. Be sure and use that question box. Finally, a note, this program is being recorded and we'll make it available on the PSR website after the 4th of July holiday. It's now my pleasure to tell you a few words about Mayor Cognetti. Mayor Cognetti was sworn in as the mayor of Scranton in January of 2020 and then won re-election to a full term in November 2021. Prior to becoming mayor, she advised the Pennsylvania Auditor General on oversight of public school districts as well as care for older adults. Mayor Cognetti previously served as a director on the Scranton School Board, and before that served in the Obama administration as a senior advisor to the Undersecretary for International Affairs at the U.S. Treasury Department. She holds an MBA from the Harvard Business School and graduated summa cum laude from the University of Oregon Clark Honors Program with a BA in English Literature. It's a very interesting background. We're grateful to have the mayor with us today. And I want to note that she may have to leave our webinar before the hour is up due to the pressure of work in her office. So for that reason, we'll have the mayor speak, and then we'll take questions for the mayor after her opening words so that she is free to return to work as soon as she needs to. Mayor Cognetti, please tell us how Scranton is poised to benefit from federal investments under such major policies as the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure and Jobs Act.
Sure. Thank you, Barb. And thanks for understanding the schedule. For some reason today is very, very busy. And it looks like it's going to rain, which is always an issue here in the city. We've got lots of plans to mitigate stormwater throughout the city, helped by the American Rescue Plan, the infrastructure bill. But not all of that work is completed yet. So we're still fighting old stormwater infrastructure that we need to repair. So that's always an issue here, especially in these late afternoons in June. So I'll tell you some of the things that we're doing here in Scranton for our sustainability and tie it back to the landmark legislation that President Biden and his administration and our Congress was able to pass in the last few years. So Scranton is part of Penn State's local policy lab climate resilience cohort. As part of that, we have been able to work with fellows from Penn State to do an emissions inventory and a lot of pre-work that is now teed us up to send out our request for proposal for a climate action plan. So we are ready to embark on a climate action plan. It's a very exciting thing. Many of the folks on the call probably know this, but we can't get the funding that we need unless we have a plan. You got to have a plan before you get the funds. So this is going to hopefully unlock a lot of the infrastructure funding, the IRA funding that will be out there in the coming years. We've got to have that plan first. Penn State has been great in helping us to be able to get that plan going and then, unlock those funding sources. Just a few weeks ago, we passed through our city council an environmental advisory council. So we have a formal body here in the city to advise us on the different things that we should be looking at to make our community healthier and more sustainable. On that panel, we've got folks on that board. We have people that are environmental scientists. We have people that have been working to do river cleanup for the last 30 years. There's a person here in Scranton, Bernie McGurl. He's almost single-handedly transformed the Lackawanna River into a place that we can play as opposed to a place that we try to stay away from. So we're trying to do that. And we also are working with our public health coordinator and our public and our healthcare providers on the public health side to make sure that there are recommendations coming to us and that we're seeing things that we need to work on. And part of that conversation, of course, is environmental justice. Just last week, we were able to invite to have a visit from the EPA regional administrator. We talked about environmental justice here in Scranton and Lackawanna County. Here we have a large landfill just couple miles from Scranton. It's located in our neighboring town of Dunmore, and it makes our entire valley an environmental justice community. We've been fighting against deregulation of that landfill for some time, and that's something that we do across sectors, across community partners, across townships, and we'll continue to do. It was wonderful to be able to raise that with the EPA regional administrator. And we'll continue those conversations. And what's going to be great is that the conversations will be within the context of that advisory council and within the context of that climate action plan, giving us not just an advocacy platform, but a plan in place for what we can do to mitigate things here in Scranton moving forward. On the really fun front, we have 10 new electric vehicles here in the city of Scranton, in addition to 25 electric buses that Barb mentioned. So the school district and the city are separate governmental entities, but we got these things going about the same time, which is really cool. So here in Scranton, we used American Rescue Plan funds to lease 10 vehicles for our code enforcement fleet. They charge in some of our public parking structures. And we also have, we're putting in for an electric vehicle charging network along with municipalities from our whole region of Northeastern Pennsylvania. We have a great Northeastern Pennsylvania Mayor's Group. We have used that as a way to organize ourselves. We're leading the way in doing that regional application to the federal government, to DOT, to get electric vehicle charging stations. And then on the school district side, they were able to get a grant through the infrastructure bill of, I think it's nearly $10 million to electrify 25 school buses in Scranton. So those should be coming online in January of 2024. And the terminal is getting ready. The power is being run and everything's getting tested. So we're looking forward to having electric school buses and a whole lot of cleaner air for our kids here in Scranton starting in about 6 months. In addition to that, through a combination of all of these legislative pieces that are investing in America and investing in healthier communities, Rescue Plan, Infrastructure Law, IRA, we're able to work on weatherization for individual homes and businesses. That's a big one, as you all on this call know. We're working on our housing stock. We're working to do the oversight of our housing and then also offer those solutions to landlords, to families of how to make their home safer and healthier. A lot of that is lead remediation, both paint and lead lines going into homes. So we're doing a host of work, a host of things on that. EPA is going to help us on the lead line replacement. We're really looking forward to working with them on that. And just in general, we're working on expanding our outreach so that people know the types of programs we have on offer. And then as the programs and the tax incentives come online from the IRA, we want to be as ready as possible to get that information out into our communities so that people can access those things and know that they're there. That I think is going to be a big challenge of IRA, is that a lot of it is going to help individuals. We've got to make sure that we're educating people so that they know that those opportunities are there. So that's just a quick snapshot.
Well, that's an awful lot in a quick snapshot. Thank you so much. It's really exciting to hear that Scranton has figured out how to access really a wealth of federal investment that's going to make a healthier community and also, healthier individuals. Tell me why you think electric school buses are good for kids.
I mean, we all remember sitting on those buses as kids, right? Or if you're a coach right now, or you have a kid and you're around those buses, you know what those fumes smell like, right? So the electrification of that fleet is really, really exciting. We're very happy that that's happening here in Scranton, again, alongside the beginnings of electrifying our fleet here at the city. It's a really neat thing that those things are happening in parallel. We are the electric city. We had the first electric trolley in America back in the 1870s, I believe it was. So we want to be the electric city 2.0. And with the investment that we're able to have now from the federal government, we're trying to get to that goal.
Yeah, no question about that. Congratulations on being the electric city. I'm still thinking about the school buses. I'm wondering, I'm not familiar with Scranton. I'll have to come and visit sometime. But can you tell me, will the school buses be picking up kids who live far from the center of town? I ask for two reasons. One, those kids would probably be the ones who had the longest rides, really lengthy trips, and would most benefit from riding an electric, non-air polluting school bus. Mm-hmm. And then also, if kids are coming in from kind of further out regions, it would illustrate how electric vehicles can benefit rural or semi-rural areas as well as your downtown.
At first, the school district is going to run these buses on the shorter routes. Part of it's the electrification infrastructure that still needs to get built out. So I think that will be kind of a step two, where some of those longer routes to pick up some of the kids that go to some of the specialty schools, that will be a second phase, I believe, to that. But I agree that we need to make sure that we're proving the case, not just in cities, we're proving the case in the rural areas as well. There's a lot of misinformation out there right now about electric vehicles. I speak with mayors all the time, and we all have stories of people writing into our offices, you can't do electric vehicles, they're going to explode, all these different things. We need to make sure that we're proving the case and showing that these are safe and that they're the right thing for the future. And it needs to happen, not just in urban areas, but in rural areas. So certainly look to a second phase of the school bus electrification on that. Hopefully that will be a test case.
Thank you. You mentioned the landfill that's just nearby, close to Scranton in a neighboring town, which kind of creates an environmental justice situation for the whole of Scranton. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and specifically how the federal government can help Scranton, or by extension other cities, redress environmental justice sites?
Right. So we have this landfill. It's been here for a very, very, very long time. Just last year, the State Department of Environmental Protection gave them a new 40-year lease, essentially, that they can operate for the next 40 years. And we fought that, and for a host of reasons, some of them statutory, which is hard to get away from. They were able to get that. They now have an application in to increase the water from their facility that would go into our main river. That's something that we've come out against as well. Those decisions are at the state level, but we're again excited to have the EPA regional administrator here last week to raise that at the federal level and see if there's something that maybe the federal and state partners can do to stop anything from happening that would further hinder the health and future of our community. So we continue to push, we continue to make that a health and safety issue, to talk about the impact that it has on everyone, but especially our kids, of course, who are, vulnerable to any sort of things in the air that shouldn't be there. So we'll keep fighting on that. And we're very lucky to be able to have that good communication at the different levels of government.
That's really great. You did mention, though, the need with all of these programs to get the word out to the residents of your city about how they can what these programs are, why they're important, how they can benefit. And it occurs to me we have two organizations on today's call, Physicians for Social Responsibility and Penn Environment, that could probably help. Can you suggest some ways that they can help get out the word, and how too should residents be expecting to hear so they can learn about these programs?
Yeah, I think that it's great to be on with these organizations, and we now need, and we certainly, as the IRA programs really come online, we'll need help getting that information out to households. City budgets are tight, we know that, so we've got all these great access to programs and things, but I don't have the bandwidth, I don't have the finances to send every resident a postcard every 3 weeks reminding them about these things, right? So we're going to need help from either other government partners, from philanthropy, from different nonprofit and non-governmental organizations, to get this information out so that people are hearing it in different places, in different ways, at their mailbox, on social media, through bus stops, through laundromats, through text messages, all those things. Cities don't have the budget for that. And so if we can have other entities like a Penn Environment or a Physicians for Social Responsibility help with that and make it a full court press, might make all the difference, and do it in multiple languages.
That would be great. A question from the audience asks, it says, they understand that a city needs a climate plan before it can access IRA or IIJA funds, but they ask, are funds available to support the city making that climate plan?
We have a very creative grant team for the climate plan itself. I think that we might have found I think we might have found a way for part of it to be funded with the rescue plan, because it's stormwater related, but don't quote me on that, because I think I have to go back and check. But that is part of the tension, right? Is there's no one person here that does climate. There's no sustainability officer or coordinator here at the city of Scranton. We're kind of this full court press, and a lot of people have this as part of their portfolio. So cities of our size, that is one of the biggest challenges, is that capacity, whether it's financial or on the human capital side. So we're always trying to get creative and always trying to figure out how we're going to get things done, despite that dearth of resources. So that's always an issue. But what's great about the current administration, the Biden administration, is that they understand our limits, and there have been it's a ton of help available at the federal level, and also like Bloomberg Philanthropies, for example, has something to help us access the infrastructure law. There's some of these other institutions that have stepped up to help fill that capacity gap.
That's good to hear. I mean, it's always sad that cities need to scramble for the funds that they need to meet really fairly basic human needs. Obviously, clean air, reliable transportation, and electrification are important needs for our individuals and for our society. And so it's really great to see that both the Biden administration and Congress, as you mentioned, have been able to step up and create these policies that allow for investment in America that really means better health and a stronger community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before you're free to go back to your office?
No, I love having these conversations, and we're really at the beginning of all of this. So, stay tuned. We're hoping for that climate action plan and this advisory council to really kick things into gear here. We're going to stay scrappy and stay creative and get all the funding that we can, but we want to make sure we've got the plans in place so we spend it properly. We're very focused on that, and we again, not just because of the landfill, but we're also built literally on coal mines here. We're above us with the air from that landfill, and then below us with the mines. We are just by definition an EJ community. We're very focused on it. We've got to make sure that our citizens here feel empowered, that they have a voice, that they're talking about it, that we're educating them on those opportunities and listening to them to understand where we need to be doing more. And of course, my job is to make sure that we're being as creative as possible, that we're reaching out to groups like yours and getting all the resources that we possibly can to be successful here. So it's an exciting time.
Well, it is. Thank you so much, Mayor Cognetti. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today about these important investments in your city and the importance of investing in America. And best of luck to you.
Thank you all. It's great to see you. Thanks for all the work that you guys do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Marie DeMarco. Marie is the health educator and medical advocacy coordinator at PSR Pennsylvania. Marie's going to talk to us in more detail about why electric school buses and other investments under the Inflation Reduction Act and these other federal policies are so important for our health. Marie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Marie DeMarco, and as Barb said, I am a health educator and medical advocacy coordinator with PSRPA. PSRPA is a public health nonprofit that advocates for social and environmental justice across Pennsylvania to improve community health. As part of my work as a health educator, I do research on the health outcomes related to methane exposure caused by oil and gas drilling or fracking in Pennsylvania. Individuals exposed to greenhouse gas emissions are more likely to have a prevalence of health disparities. Harmful emissions from the oil and gas sector put vulnerable groups such as children and the elderly at risk. Legislation such as IRA is important in mitigating risk associated with outdoor air pollution in at-risk communities. Outdoor air pollution can impact rates of asthma across the United States. According to the CDC, in the United States, 25 million individuals currently have asthma. Outdoor air pollution can exacerbate asthma for individuals that already have it, or can increase the risk of one obtaining asthma throughout their life course. According to the Pennsylvania Department of Health, adult lifetime asthma prevalence has increased 4% in the past 10 years in Pennsylvania. Current asthma prevalence has also increased for both genders. It has increased 23% since 2009 for females, which is 1 in 7, and has increased 16% for males, which is 1 in 13. And 1 in 8 children currently are diagnosed with asthma in the United States. From 2011 to 2019, lifetime asthma prevalence has increased in all age groups. In adults 18 to 24, asthma prevalence has increased the most at 34%, and has been increasing for all groups above that as well. In the United States alone, 5 million children under the age of 18 currently suffer from asthma. According to the CDC, this number is increasing year by year, and harmful emissions such as carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide increase children's susceptibility to suffer from asthma. According to the CDC, asthma costs $50 billion per year in healthcare costs just in the US. And every day, about 10 people die of asthma in the United States. Reducing these harmful emissions could reduce healthcare costs and save lives. Of these main investments, the biggest impact on public health, I believe, would be electrification opportunities that would have the largest impact on public health. Electrification has a large impact on public health because electricity can replace the fossil fuel industry as an energy source. Electrification will also mitigate health risks caused by the oil and gas emissions, as well as reducing greenhouse gas emissions overall. Electrification will result in improved air quality and improved community health across the United States. And these investments in the IRA are so important in Pennsylvania because in Pennsylvania alone, almost 1.5 million people live or work within a half mile of an active oil or gas well. These individuals and their communities are exposed to greenhouse gas emissions, which have a direct impact on their health and our climate. Electrification would be life-changing in these communities because it would reduce greenhouse gas emissions and then benefit their health. And the health impacts that are associated with being near outdoor air pollution are there are many, and individuals who work at drilling sites are at the highest risk of obtaining negative health outcomes. Individuals in these communities are affected by toxic chemicals that enter the environment through air, water, or soil, and then come into contact with people through inhalation, ingestion, and absorption, or skin contact. Individuals in these communities present with multiple health disparities that can include reduced lung function, an increased prevalence of asthma, as I stated before, COPD, and multiple cancers such as acute lymphatic leukemia and Ewing sarcoma. Women and men living in these communities can be at risk for reduced fertility outcomes due to the air pollution caused by the pesticides and greenhouse gas chemicals. These pollutants are an environmental health concern that can put women at risk for polycystic ovary syndrome, endometriosis, and infertility. These communities in Pennsylvania can suffer from socio-psychological well-being because changes in environment, such as new drilling operations, can increase anxiety and human distress. In a study published by PubMed, populations that reside around drilling sites had increased levels of anxiety and depression. And a program like the Clean School Bus program would reduce risk for prevalence of these health disparities, such as childhood asthma in Pennsylvania.
Thank you for that, Marie. That's very interesting. And I have to say those statistics on asthma are just absolutely chilling. I mean, a 23% increase in any disease is really appalling. And that was I think that's what you cited for the increase in asthma prevalence among women. But then 1 out of 8 of our children in this country has asthma. That's really pretty pathetic. I'd like to bring that back around to the question of the electric school buses. I just think they're a very exciting topic, and I'm assuming that they would be replacing diesel buses. So can you tell us why it's so important to remove diesel engines from our roads? Tell me about their pollutants and their effects on health. I think, is it mainly a question of particulate matter?
Yes. So the children are an at-risk group for being affected by tailpipe emissions, and the tailpipe emissions can expose children to health disparities. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, vehicles such as school buses produce harmful carbon dioxide, and gasoline-powered school buses produce methane and as well as nitrous oxide. And as I said before, these chemicals are influence asthma prevalence among our children. And these chemicals, of course, have an impact on our health and our future. And the particulate matter air pollution is a mixture of both solid and liquid particles. And that is what is put into the air from these tailpipe emissions that can increase premature death in people with heart or lung disease, can increase non-fatal heart attacks, aggravate asthma, create decreased lung function, and increase respiratory symptoms. So definitely the School Bus Act would definitely improve health in these communities.
Yeah, I hear that. That's quite an impressive list of health impacts. Why is it particularly important that we protect the lungs of children and young people? Can you tell us a little bit about the development of lungs and the danger of permanent damage when people are exposed as kids?
Yes. So individuals that are exposed to particulate matter can early on in life can influence other health disparities that they could be privy to later in life, and could eventually result in premature death because of the exposure.
Thank you. Now I know I'm a little bit fascinated by the electric school buses, but I do know that there are other things that the Inflation Reduction Act and other federal policies will support. And you mentioned electrification. In that context, can you talk to us about heat pumps? Can you tell us basically what are heat pumps and why are they good for health? Because I know that is something that can be receiving support under the IRA.
Yes, of course. So residential homes usually have a furnace in the basement or in an area of their home to produce heat. And these gas burning appliances contribute to outdoor air pollution because of the venting that goes outside. And when individuals replace their gas furnace with an electric heat pump, the heat pump improves overall outdoor air quality, which then in turn improves outdoor air quality and improves community health as well.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Marie. I think that's all the questions I have for you. It's now my pleasure to introduce Ashley Deemer. Ashley is the Deputy Director of Penn Environment, and we've been kind of focusing in on Pennsylvania and on some of these specifics, but Ashley maybe is going to be able to step back and give us a more broad perspective on these policies, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and tell us how they can benefit cities, towns, and individuals all across the nation. So Ashley, tell us about the overall benefits these policies can provide and what kinds of investments might be coming to cities and states.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Ashley Deemer. I'm the Deputy Director of Penn Environment. We're a nonprofit and advocacy organization that works to achieve clean air, clean water, and a safe and livable climate. And it's really exciting for me personally to be here today talking about this because, as we were going through these presentations, I was thinking about where I began my career in environmental advocacy talking about diesel school buses a long time ago. And at that time, we had a campaign to get school buses to install, diesel particulate filters. We were retrofitting diesel buses to try to make them marginally safer. And so the fact that we're now talking about electrifying the nation's school bus fleet, it's really exciting. And it took some time to get here, but it will make a huge impact. So yes, I will be backing up and talking about the broader premise of the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the climate solutions specifically in those laws. I think just to start out, it would be really hard to overstate how profound the impact of these laws will be. They genuinely invest in America and in Pennsylvania in big ways that put us on a path to averting the worst impact of climate change, while also building up this clean energy economy that we've all been talking about for so long and putting money back in the pockets of people and families. And I'm going to talk about how that works here in Pennsylvania. But overall, I want to give some big picture, paint a picture of what this does across a variety of kind of climate areas of concern. So overall, the Inflation Reduction Act, we'll start there. The Inflation Reduction Act provides $370 billion over the next decade for projects that we will expect to achieve a 40% reduction in global warming pollution by 2030. So 2030 is not that far away. And that's a big reduction. So that's exciting. The law includes a really huge, enormous assortment of investments. So I'm going to highlight the ones that I think that'll be most interesting to this discussion. We've got $30 billion to speed up domestic production of renewable energy components like solar panels, wind turbines, and battery storage. We've got $10 billion to build new manufacturing facilities for these components right here in the United States and create those green jobs we always talk about. $9 billion in consumer home energy rebates for electrifying appliances and making homes more energy efficient. So the rebate part of this is, what makes the purchase price of these things more affordable from the get-go. So we'll talk a little bit about those probably in the Q&A. And then 10 years of consumer tax credits that reimburse people for specific and really impactful home energy efficiency retrofits like insulation, heat pumps, rooftop solar, efficient water heaters, all kinds of things. And in Pennsylvania, that translates really well. It means, that we're going to expect $270 million of investment in large scale clean power generation and storage between now and 2030. That's really like 6.5 years. So it's a big deal. It'll save Pennsylvanians, we think, somewhere between $300 and $1,800 in energy costs annually, depending on how much of this program people tap into. We expect there's been an analysis of like similar provisions to what's in the Inflation Reduction Act, and we would expect that about 144,000 clean energy jobs in Pennsylvania will be created with this program. And that's in addition to the 90,000 clean energy jobs that we already have. I don't think people realize that. We have a huge clean energy and energy efficiency sector here. And it's estimated, I think this is really, have I said the word exciting too much? I think this is exciting. It's estimated that the Inflation Reduction Act is going to bring about 610,000 additional PA households online with rooftop solar. So that's really big. That's a huge portion of the 5 million total households in Pennsylvania. You know, I think the other law we should touch on that doesn't get as much press anymore as the Inflation Reduction Act is the really transformational Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. This is the bipartisan infrastructure law that we were talking about in 2021. It also, I mean, I hate to list off these, I just have bullet points of X billion for this and X billion for that, but it really is. We've got more than $3 billion to improve public transportation, which, as we know, takes cars off the road and replaces dirty diesel buses with zero emission vehicles. That's huge. Got $102 billion to help Amtrak with kind of a backlog of maintenance, but also to modernize the Northeast Corridor that I'm sure many people on this call are familiar with, and just improve rail service all around. Got a lot of money from the Infrastructure Act going into expanding the electric vehicle charging infrastructure, the network in Pennsylvania. And we know Pennsylvania has a goal of having chargers within a mile of the highway every 50 miles. So you can truly, you know, make a longer journey with an electric vehicle. And we know that the mileage capacity has improved significantly in recent years too, but we need those chargers. It also includes, like Mayor Cognetti was saying, $5 billion for low or zero emission school buses. So I could keep going. The list is truly, it seems endless, but I will stop. I mean, there's a lot of money in addition to climate stuff in the Infrastructure Act for things like replacing lead pipes and remediating toxic brownfields like Superfund sites. But I will stop. Some of this money, because the infrastructure bill was passed in 2021, some of it has already come down. So we know like Pennsylvania has received something like $615 million for public transportation programs. There's a large carbon reduction program to the tune of $51 million to reduce air pollution from highway traffic. So I think some of that is going where I'm from. I'm out in Pittsburgh. There's a bus rapid transit corridor that's being funded. So there's a lot of exciting progress and projects. Truly, the list goes on, but I think it's worth repeating that these are historic and that every Pennsylvanian is going to see the benefit here. And these laws, I think, for me, this means a lot. I have a lot of hope with these laws that we can now address climate change and all the health disparities that come with it, with the urgency that really requires. So I'll stop there.
Well, actually, I think that actually was exciting. It was a lot of numbers, but
Yeah.
leaving aside the numbers, which helped to give us a sense of the serious scope of these policies, just to hear the breadth of different kinds of policies suggests that we really could be on the verge of moving into a new kind of society, a society where our energy is cleaner and our air is cleaner and our health is better. And that's going to be a benefit for everybody. I love it because it's not a partisan issue, it's a human issue.
Yeah.
I did have a couple of specific questions for you. You mentioned that there's money in the IRA for manufacturing solar panels. And you also were talking about the number of clean energy jobs, excuse me, available or coming in Pennsylvania. Is there production of solar panels in Pennsylvania? Can you tell us about that?
Well, there is money coming to Pennsylvania for that. I can't speak to the existing solar panel manufacturing in Pennsylvania, if there is any, but I know that there's quite a bit of anticipation around how much money will go into really incentivizing new manufacturing. And certainly there will be a lot more demand for these products once the Inflation Reduction Act money starts flowing. But I'm pulling up here, there was an analysis by the Blue Green Alliance. So this is this coalition of labor groups and environmental groups trying to work together. And the Blue Green Alliance did this great analysis that showed how many jobs will be created by the IRA. And specifically, they broke it out by sector. So we're able to see how many manufacturing jobs we expect. And so this might give you a scale idea of how much solar manufacturing there will be. It doesn't exactly answer your question, but they're thinking that the tax credits nationally will create 670,000 jobs in manufacturing of wind turbines, both onshore and offshore, solar panels, and EV batteries. So somewhere in there, I mean, that's more than 500,000 jobs. So I think we can expect quite a lot of solar manufacturing in Pennsylvania. And in addition to that manufacturing, there's jobs for manufacturing electric vehicles and decarbonizing other industries that are really energy intense, like steel and cement manufacturing, aluminum, and those are things that Pennsylvania does a lot of too. So we'd expect a lot of that money to come here.
Oh, that's a good point. So we've been focusing on some of the smaller, perhaps more tangible or more integrated into our everyday life kinds of implementation, but it's great to hear that it will be affecting heavy industry as well. There's a lot of pollution in heavy industry, and there are also a lot of jobs. That's really significant.
Yeah.
You did say that maybe in the Q&A you would talk a little bit about benefits for individuals. There are, of course, rebates for purchases of certain items. There are tax credits. Can you talk to us about what these benefits are, but also help us understand how can we find out? As individuals, we may be very interested in better insulating our homes, or maybe even getting solar panels, or just getting that heat pump that Marie was talking about. How do we find our way? How do we know what we might be eligible for and how to apply for it?
Well, that's a great question. So I'm getting the link now to a toolkit that people can look at, and I'm going to send this to everyone. So this is a good starting point. This is something that our organization put together, because really, if you try to wade through all the IRS documents and the White House briefs on this, you will get lost. So the good news is there's a lot of tax credits that are available starting this tax year. So a lot of the tax credits are going to be things that you can file for when you're doing your taxes in 2024 for this year. So you should absolutely look into these and pick and choose what you're interested in. And but I'll just rattle off a few. There is like a 30% tax credit for installation of rooftop solar, residential wind, which I'm not sure how many people are doing that, but it's available. And energy storage is also covered by this 30% tax credit. There's different kind of tiers of credits for different things. And so you really want to make sure you're doing your math correctly. And some of these things, there are like a maximum benefit per year. So you may want to space these improvements out over a number of years. But, for heat pumps, you can get a 30% tax credit up to $2,000. You can get tax credits for more efficient air conditioners, more efficient furnaces, more efficient water heaters. Basically anything that can break in your house, you should probably look at the tax credits before you replace it. And insulation, I live in an old house. I think a lot of the housing inventory in Pennsylvania is older. I live in an old house, and there are parts of my house that are not insulated very well. So I'm going to be taking advantage of the insulation tax credit. There's a lot of like weatherization opportunities in here. For insulation, you get 30% of the cost, up to $1,200 per year, which is great. Windows, EV chargers, you can get 30% of the cost, up to $1,000 for your home. So there's just a ton. There's a whole menu of options there. And again, I think, you know, if you space these out over a number of years, you can, I don't want to use the word extract. You can get a lot of benefit personally from the Inflation Reduction Act.
Well, that's great. That's the way it should be. This should be available to benefit all of us. Thank you so much for putting that link into the chat. In case people haven't gone to the chat yet, it's there. And I guess if you don't pick it up from the chat, you could go to the website of Environment America, Pennsylvania, because that's exactly the kind of practical tool that I think we need to be able to find our way through these inspiring and yet sometimes a little overwhelming federal policies. I did have a couple of questions that are specific to parts of Pennsylvania having to do with mining, because I heard that there's funding in the IRA for abandoned coal mine reclamation. Now that's something that I think might actually be very relevant to Scranton. I think Mayor Cognetti was saying that Scranton actually sits on old coal mines. And then there's also long-term funding available for the federal Black Lung Fund. I think we may have somebody on. We do. We have somebody on the webinar whom I'd like to introduce to you, because she's a Pennsylvanian who I think will know something about this. It's Maya Horniak. She's the policy director in Physicians for Social Responsibility, and delighted to have her as a colleague. Maya, can you shed any light on these coal mining related or coal legacy related areas that could be receiving support from the federal government?
Absolutely. So the abandoned mine reclamation funding that was in the IRA was about $135 million, and that's going to a number of Appalachian states, and Pennsylvania is going to get about $29 million from it. And this will be crucial for much of northeastern Pennsylvania, where Scranton is, and some parts of western Pennsylvania, where there's also been significant mining. So with these funds, now the former mines can be revitalized and reclaimed by local communities in ways that make sense for them. And it'll also be beneficial to public health and the local economies. And then for the Black Lung Fund, this was also a key factor in the IRA. It permanently secured investments in the Black Lung Disability Trust Fund that many were worried funding would run out for that and leave miners and their families having to pay for healthcare costs on their own. So now miners with Black lung disease and their families can rest assured their benefits are going to be extended. And those include monthly payments to miners that have been disabled by the disease, as well as monthly payments to eligible surviving dependents that lost their lives due to Black lung and because of the industry. So very important for Pennsylvania and a number of Appalachian states.
Wow, thank you for that. So we've gone from electric school buses to home insulation and solar panels to Black lung. Clearly, there are benefits for just about everybody in these really important federal investments in America. It's been great to hear about it. I'd like to thank all of our speakers for sharing this information with us. Thank you especially to Mayor Cognetti for taking the time out of her very busy day to join us. And on behalf of Physicians for Social Responsibility and Physicians for Social Responsibility Pennsylvania, thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.